another one because I want to, and I think 2 videos, whatever. So I'm gonna ask ChatGPT. I do want to say in this video, she did word it, he or she. I think it's a she. I don't know the name. Kareen, yeah, it definitely was a she. Um, did word it properly though. Where do we keep and the memory and retrieve when needed? It does actually sound like a valid, genuine question, even though the grounds of the question are not in deep thinking and was on knowledge that you should have known. It was not very progressive in thought. It's almost regressive. What are we talking about? So what ChatGPT says, encoded in the networks of neurons in the brain. And I don't know how much we know about a brain. I can't be. This is where, in the last video, I was saying people are in general lower education, lower intelligence. I think lower in education, especially when I call them stupid. I don't want to say low in IQ because I was arguing that a 150 person can be low in education and ideas processed by someone of even 100 IQ with the right frameworks will jump farther than such a person. And then I was arguing for if IQ is even valid, if the 150 is not as valid, right? And then I was pointing out that there are different levels of IQ, but that was in the last video. Let's keep this video. But so right, encoded in the network of neurons, base take, right? And then okay, in the hippocampus is the exact area. And no, the video did not mention the hippocampus, though I would guess the hippocampus is in the frontal lobe. No, I don't know that for sure though. And yes, I did learn it, and I know the hippocampus is a segment in the brain that is in the brain. And I learned about it. And I know it's in the brain. No, it's not in the frontal lobe. All right. And then my argument would be I don't need to know the specifics of 6, 7, the specifics, because at the end of the day, I do know it was in there. I know about it, and I know it's wired correctly. It's not even an argument if it's wired correctly or consistently with nature for crazier claims like. And I think the most important thing is you're able to point at it and give a definition good enough to research it, because I do believe in the internet and AI and Google, and that will be permanent of a feature in America, and the goal should be to get it to everywhere else anyway. Due to it's to limit, it's to gain the ability for educated people so we can heighten those numbers and so there aren't barriers in the way. Right. One could argue memory isn't stored in a place, it is the pattern of connectivity itself. Right. These are obviously based. And I do like replying to the comments, cause especially on TikTok, because I am trying to educate them and I want to explain it in a way. Okay, the next person said the brain can't distinguish a thought in reality. Stupid. It's stupid! What the freak? Right. This is my point, actually. Oh my gosh. The brain can't distinguish a thought and reality. Even though in that video, it was saying how, like, there's an auditory section, there is I guess, a smelling section. Let me look at the video.
I'm a scientist that studies the brain, and
I'm a scientist that studies the brain. He asked the stupidest question.
Vertebrae in your backbone. These yellow things represent nerves branching off your spinal cord. This is called the dura. It's a connective tissue that surrounds your brain and spinal cord and helps protect your central nervous system. The human brain is divided into 2 halves, and each half contains 4
parts.
The frontal lobe
4
is
lobes. The frontal
for
lobe.
higher level thinking and voluntary movement. The parietal lobe processes sensory information like
Okay,
taste and
so the parietal lobe processes senses. The comment, right, says the brain can't distinguish a thought and reality, right? But if it is strictly establishing senses, which by the way, the senses are taken in, like for instance, your vision is actually flipped and then it's reflipped for your brain. So you're actually taking it in upside down, naturally. So it takes in these senses, then in the frontal lobe, to simplify it, it reorganizes these memories into coherent thought, that it would be thought with this framework of thought, of understanding. We're obviously rage baiting. No, I'm kidding. We're not rage baiting, because they would have to literally know to rage bait. They don't know. I do want to answer these comments though. Oh, I can do one of the achievements. I know how to do it now. I'm gonna answer the comments first, and then I'll do it. It's the Elytra through like 40. I looked it up on YouTube. Let me answer these comments. Let me see. Okay, obviously, one was stupider than the other. So where do we keep the memory and retrieve when needed? This comment, I'm going to say overall within the brain. Specifically, I would say the hippocampus. Or even more plainly, just within the neurons and the networking of the brain, right? But exclamation point, positivity, peace, friendliness. And I would note, right, and this is a very good point that ChatGPT made, of the brain will remember a memory and rewire it. So that gets into like every memory is slightly different because the brain is rewriting the memory to remember. So it's also always creating stuff. It's very, which is a very good point. Like, and it gives for feelings of like nostalgia and stuff, because it's rewriting it. That's not how, right. So, and also I would mention the brain is rewriting itself while remembering. So in cases like nostalgia, I'll use it. When you are remembering, there's different thoughts with that due to the brain actually rewriting memories to remember. another one. Cool. Said that to them. The brain can't distinguish a thought and reality. That is more of a dumb comment, of a raging comment. Though the first person was not too smart either. How does the brain keep the memory and retrieve it when needed? And I guess retrieve it when needed made it smarter. I will say that was the better part of the sentence. Retrieve when needed was the better part of the sentence. That was, so I am giving them more respect. But then I am arguing for, you know, where do we keep the memory? I am arguing for that did stoop the question down and made it not likable. The brain can't distinguish a thought and reality is obviously rage bait. It can blatantly, I am going to be a little bit mean, blatantly, within the video, it says how there's an area for sensory information which would be reality. And there is an area, and then also I don't like this comment because he's like exclaiming it, he's making it declarative. The brain can't distinguish a thought and reality, period. Oh my god, obviously rage bait. He's not smart. Ref, do something. Anyway, and there is an area, so that is making me a little bit like, rage bait. An area for sensory information, which would be reality, and there's an area for, I do want to quote the video. I don't want to go off dome, because I want them to link up. So let me just grab my other phone, walk over to my little page, right, go to the video, skip into, I'll tell you this, what he said too, in a second. I'll tell you what he said. He said something stupid.
The frontal lobe is responsible for higher level thinking and voluntary movement. The parietal lobe
for higher level thinking, I'll say, which does imply, like, it doesn't even have to be precise, but it would imply that reality is created within that section, doesn't it? It does kind of imply like higher level thinking, like maybe that's where your idea of reality is coming from. And also, not reality, thought. It could be known as reality because that's what you're experiencing, but also he didn't make a better idea of, he said thought, he didn't make a better idea of sensory input. So you could use reality, because I would have kind of, sensory input and then reality, that would have been my second, he said thought and reality, and thought is implying other ideas of more generality of not even how you're perceiving the world, which implies that thought is created within that section. Just a period. Okay, obvious rage bait. So let me show you the video that was obvious rage bait.
and touch. The occipital lobe is primarily responsible for...
First he
I
says...
want to share with you something that we totally don't understand. The brain can process tons of different information. Everything you see, whatever you hear, things you smell. This is all pretty easy for the brain because these are just physical signals that your brain is detecting.
The brain is connected to this long tail called your...
I'll come say this random because it wasn't acting from a signal from your...
to stay balanced and also assists in fine motor activity.
My crazy question is, when you close your eyes and you think of something random, go ahead and pause the video and do that. You just caused your own brain...
Okay, he said close your eyes, think of something random, and close your eyes. You don't have to close your eyes. I thought of a lion earlier.
in a random way that's associated with whatever you thought of. It wasn't reacting to a signal from your environment. It was responding to a request that originated...
Okay, it wasn't reacting from a signal from your environment. It was a request that originated within itself, is what he's saying.
Is this request for randomness?
And then he says, where in the brain is the request for randomness? And I gave him the frontal lobe based on that video. I actually made other points against him. Let me see what he said again.
In a random way that's associated with whatever
Right. He said it activated in a random way. Arguably, it did not. Whatever you thought of, I'm assuming you participated. Is not random. I don't know why we're thinking that's random. It's not random. This is the evidence I had in the video of, and this is where the frog came from. Knowing the species, how many species of frog, I did just pop that in last episode. Of like, why did you know that, you fucking weirdo? But I was saying it's not random because you named something that was already within the brain's understanding. You did not come up with, and then I think like, I don't know what frog I used. I think it was like the Gregorian flying frog, or what was that? I don't know what that was. That sound. The Gregorian flying frog or some crap like that. Right. And I know you didn't come up with that because you were not aware of it. So if it was truly random, wouldn't you have had a possibility to come up with such an idea of specific species of frog out of the 7,800 species of them? Wouldn't you have been? But no, you couldn't, because that's not how the brain works, and it's not random. I don't know why we're just randomly throwing it random. And then in the agnostic versus atheist video, he kept on saying, "Oh, everything is random. Isn't that random?" He said he made Christian music, and a pastor contacted him and sent him a Bible verse, and it was about witchcraft. Which, by the way, the pastor knew that his music used to be based in Satanist and witchcraft. Satanist, no, maybe not witchcraft, and not that I listened to the music, but Satanist work. He was, from what I understood, was Satanist music, and the pastor knew about that and sent him that Bible verse. And I just want to say Satanist work is very related with witchcraft. Not that that's the main point, but he said that was random. And that was not random. First of all, you're making Christian music and a pastor contacted you a Bible verse in a Christian dominated society. What are we even freaking talking about? What are we freaking talking about? That's not random. Wanna know what's random? And then he said, this is the other way he said, and okay, so he makes music, because he makes the Satanist music. He makes music. He was listening to Dax, which is a Christian artist, and he was enjoying Dax, the Christian artist. He was enjoying it. So then he says it was random for him to start wanting to make Christian music and make Christian music. And that's not random. You made music. You were enjoying a Christian artist while thinking about if you wanted to be Christian or not. That's not what random is. What are we freaking talking about? And then I think there was another one in the same freaking video. He just kept on saying everything was random. There was nothing random about anything. I am forgetting what he said. I'm gonna go find out.
Involving God as he goes.
There was only me doing all the cooking, all the serving. That was the third night.
Common multiple value.
I don't know what he said, but yeah, in those two examples, he said those was random. I could just look at the notes. I'm gonna look at my notes. Nothing was fucking random about this. He did have weak reasoning for non-belief. He said he doesn't believe because, like, I guess his family and like the pastor and the church were mean to him and he didn't have a good time there. And then I'm saying it's weak belief because it'd be like if I had problems with a scientist, now I don't trust the discipline of science. I don't think it was engaging with the discipline of Christianity. How an atheist wants to, how somebody who is higher up to the ideal of atheists should be interacting. It was on weak. So no wonder he tried. I was saying he was very primed to transition. Not to mention he believes in witchcraft, so doesn't have a problem with the supernatural. Very primed to just believe in Christianity. I'm just saying it just very correlated. believes in prayer. He was believing in prayer. He was saying he wanted somebody to pray for him. So while he was agnostic, by the way, wanted somebody to pray for him. And then I was arguing for agnostic because I'm like, agnostic would be more against everything than this guy is. Obviously, he was Christian, and thought he was agnostic. He was obviously Christian. Believes in prayer and was seeing if something would work for him. Right. He believed in prayer twice, I think, in the video. Right. He makes music, was enjoying a Christian artist. How is that? How is that freaking random? There's no randomness with that. What are we freaking talking about? What are we talking about? Right. And then I'll talk about this right now. Where I was saying this easily acceptable God of the Christian God, people want to think of the good God and almost deny the God of the Bible. I was saying they it's more word of mouth version of God. It is not based on the God of the Bible because, like we were saying last video, the God of the Bible is very evil. And this is not where the good God came from. It came from a slither of the Bible, which was the New Testament, and is upgraded by word of mouth that is fluid with modern forms of good. And that's why you can get the Bible like saying yes to like God saying yes to slavery and saying yes to horrible things that we wouldn't say yes to now, that because of our modern understanding of morality and stuff, that back then was not built yet, and like having slaves was not in the question of morality. So obviously the peasants put that in the book, and so they're not even using that understanding of God. I was arguing that they have abandoned such God, and that isn't even a good guide to even get a gauge of what a Christian thinks about God, because that is such a different God, and their God is not really in the Bible, and it's more of an aesthetic book than anything else. I just really want to find the other thing he said. I think I'm gonna find it. I don't know if I'll find it. Talking about the book. I was thinking about this. He said he was spooked. He got spooked because people in Jesus attire and Lucifer attire came into the cafe shop, which by the way is a public place. By the way, Christianity is the dominated religion in America, and I was saying he got spooked because of their clothing, and then I was pointing out that, and he was making it so like a Satanist is like an atheist or a non-believer. When a Satanist, and I was arguing a Satanist, witchcraft, belief in ghosts, all that shit, is a denomination of Christianity because they believe in the supernatural. An atheist does not believe in that. Like, he doesn't even know what an atheist looks like, by the way. Misrepresented of what an atheist even looks like. He doesn't understand that. So he was saying like a Satanist is an atheist, but a Satanist believes in God and Satan. They believe in Satan, which is only a thing because of God. By the way, Satan is not even in the Bible. Because of God. And if he is in the Bible, he's in one line. He's not in the Bible. Of obviously word of mouth form of a God, obviously not based in that book. If you are reading that book, you are not getting a good God anyway. Obviously, they're not in this book. A Satanist believes in Satan, which is linked to God, meaning they are theists. They are not non-believers of an atheist, of a non-believer. Does not believe in theism. So that was just crazy. And then I was saying how it would be like if, yeah, they're saying, and then like, okay, some Christians say even the devil believes in God, and it'd be like even Darth Vader believes in Luke Skywalker. They are they are in the same book. They are not, you know. And then I was talking about how his little claims, his tiny claims, and how he made very reasonable claims for God to just give a $60 tip, and then you're real levels. And then he thinks that that tiny little claim jumps up to being able to break physics, a dead Homo sapien coming back to life, the sea being parted, the world being, all these assumptions, with his tiny ass claim of blatant bias of you are gonna turn Christian anyway. But that's what I talked about in that video. By the way, this is a video on my TikTok channel. Not that I have my TikTok channel currently in the bio or anything, but it might be one day. Who knows? Right. And okay, that might be the only random stuff he said. That he said. It was so random. It was so random. What is freaking random about a priest contacting somebody who is making Christian music and sending a Bible verse? If that is random, then sue me. No, it's not random. It doesn't matter if you sue me. It doesn't change it from being random. But okay, let me see the rest of this video. I was talking about this video. The other video. What did he say again? I just forgot what he said.
Reacting to a signal from your environment.
Oh, he said, okay, and this is where the randomness came. He said, because what you thought of earlier, I thought of a lion, because what you thought of earlier wasn't because of a signal from your environment, then it was random. And again, I was arguing the point of it being random in the first place, because it's not very random. If I mentioned a lion, by the way, I'm sure there's species of lions, right? So not very. I just know about the general name of lion. And even then, right, I had to know about it. And I didn't name any types of fish because I don't know about fish, and makes it not random. I'm questioning if we know what random meant. But since you didn't get any of the senses and you didn't use any of that, that makes it random. And then I just want to say that all the information that is in your brain originally came from the senses and had to be decoded by your brain for it to be a coherent experience. So originally everything came from the senses, mind you.
Responding to a request that
right.
originated within itself. So my question is, where in the brain is this request for
right? And he says, where in the brain is this request for randomness originating? Which is funny. And I think he's trying to allude to consciousness, which is not a thing. And if you need to, consciousness is awareness. Awareness. Okay, you're aware. Everything is working fluidly. You're getting all your senses. Nothing special. There is nothing special. And also, a horse would be conscious. In the way that you're speaking of consciousness, a horse, a sheep, they're conscious. You robot. Because then, just so you know, there was like Destiny. He was I liked him for a second. He was okay. Again, he still had flaws in thinking, and I think sometimes they're really deep in America and American thought, and it just seems like they can't pop out of a lens of the dominant beliefs, and not the dominant beliefs, but the dominant culture, and can't hop out where that, and stuck, but not as stuck as how stuck people truly are, like people still being racist, not stuck in that sense, but still, hard to correlate things, and not using scientific thought at all, which would be my contingent. and uses it sparingly, which I try not to. But with him, he was saying, well, I don't know if animals feel pain because, and like Alex O'Connor, he was like, so if an animal is acting like it feels pain, like reacting like it feels pain, he said, basically Destiny saying because he is not in the animal's brain, he doesn't know their experience and if they are conscious. And this is where, what are we fucking talking about? Consciousness, man-made? No, they are aware. They are aware. What are you talking about? Right, levels are just okay. And you know, Destiny's based, but that was egregious. Egregious. I did not favor that. That was just like, what are we fucking talking about? And he was trying to justify eating meat, which and then it goes into like people will feel bad if like you serve them dog, like animals aren't fucking equal. It's so rage baiting. It's so rage baiting. They're so stupid. Like the comment is just so stupid and I do understand why you would think a dog, I guess, is over a cow. It does call into question the ethics of the cow. It calls into question the ethics of the pig. It calls into question, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are we doing? If there was a human shop for the cows to have meat, right, it would be monstrous. And precisely, it is the exact same thing of if we had a monkey shop that was related to the cow meat production, etc., egg production, etc. Right. Ethics will be getting, so just because they don't look like you means you get to disrespect their brain. You see, this is where I bring the scientific lens back of your disrespecting brains. Groups of brains probably could have higher experiences and like higher experiences related to cats and dogs of there was this one thing saying how they how when you cook food and you have food, first of all, they're smelling all this food and they're smelling all these good scents and all of these spices you put on, and they're required to eat that nasty, not nasty, but bland kibble, not with the spices. So obviously they're attracted to your food. As a brain, you gotta respect it. And when they do get the food, they will just wolf it down and just gulp it all down without savoring the taste because they never had the chance to. And this is where better experiences for the brains can be taken into account, blatantly trying to treat the dogs and the cats, though yes, they have smaller brains, differently and not to the same standards that you would right. Giving dogs and cats prison food as mandatory is wild. And ethically, I would respect the people who cook for their dog, very limited, but cook for their dog and treat them equally. And not necessarily that they treat them equally, but that is a point where they would be treating them equally in right. And then like you would say with the horses, they eat like hay and stuff. And it would be opposed, especially with the cats and dogs, how you are eating good food in front of their face and how that would affect them. So being aware that they have brains, I almost think that is besides the fact. And then it goes into this where they were saying the reason humans have bigger brains is we didn't have bigger brains when we were climbing in trees because the animal, and for instance, like a deer has to get up right away and has to use resources to climb and run and stuff, versus a human who eventually was getting held by the mother with two hands. So that would allow the brain to go into more depth of, right? So not arguing that our brains aren't bigger, and then I would just argue that our culture is more integrated for our brains to be productive, because I'm arguing that the cats and dogs could be more productive and not productive in a capitalist sense, more educated in a more, yeah, in that sense of I did have a point, but be more productive in the manner. I did have a point. I did lose it. I did forget. But I did actually have one, and it was fluid. Just like the other freaking points I was making. Everything was freaking fluid. But be more productive in a sense of having better lives. And yeah, and I almost wouldn't be arguing for the cats and dogs anyway. I would be arguing for the cows who are arguably getting tortured. Idea. And yeah, and being treated like they have nothing to live for, and like with the capitalist mode of, if they are older, first of all, they were going to live longer. If they were older, right, you just kill them, you don't let them, right? And ethics, and if they were to do that to humans, right? And not that you have to not eat meat, because I eat meat, right? And it goes into question, you have a problem when they put dog meat on the table, not a problem with cow meat. I'm questioning your equality for the animals. I am questioning that. Of what are we fucking talking about? Meat is definitely meat, and it goes into human meat. You're gonna be mad. I'm sorry that you're mad. It's more to make the point. I'm not arguing for a law to. I think the law is great. Cannibalism, great. Bad law, and I see all the ethics of why you should not be a cannibalist. With a scientific perspective of meat just being meat, it calls into question how you're treating the cows, and not that. And yeah, if you can't see that, this is the dumbness we were talking about, of how I would not be arguing for any cannibalism here. Blatantly not arguing for cannibalism. Blatantly not even arguing for removing the production of cow meat. Blatantly just opening the conversation. Blatantly not being as declarative as I could be if I was trying to make a movement. Blatantly not doing that at this current moment. So, right, this is where people are just stupid. It's stupid. It's stupid because I'm already questioning if you will be able to get that point. Levels of stupid. Levels of just anybody can watch. And so stupid. Blatantly not doing any of that. Just pointing out that it is a funny system that humans have created, that are very biased in human thought. And if you were to start linking it out, and really the point earlier with the cats and dogs and even the horses is their brain could understand stuff. Oh, this was the great point of where I was going with that conversation, of you only tell them like sit and stop and sit, when they could probably understand at least 50 vocab words. And I don't know how many vocab. They can understand more words than just sit, or and yeah. So this is where people don't treat them like brains, blatantly not treating them equal, in a sense where, yeah, I even question if the dog could be aware of conversation if you gave them that molding that a human has. Could they be more aware and more educated than humans have allowed them to be? Right. And educated in a sense of obviously being more fluid within, I guess, language in this reference. But just the idea of a brain and being able to have a different perspective with it. And the cannibalism thing does kind of have me messed up of stupid. But I am very willing to understand that they're stupid. And there is a stupid army. Obviously, there is other people besides the smart people. even though I am only talking to such people of mine. I like this church. But yeah. And yeah, it calls into question why you would have different classifications of meat. And yeah, why you would not want to be vegan as a society, to limit your harm. But yeah, but you are allowed to just say you don't care about harming them. I think that is just right. I First of all, I personally feel too small to have any qualms with eating meat. Personally, me turning vegetarian, in my view, not saying somebody else, it can't turn vegetarian and be ethical and not wanting to participate in the industry. I personally have no qualms with participating in the industry if there is no movement to even get rid of the industry. And for instance, that cow is gonna die anyway. And also take into mind that I have been eating meat from childhood, which sways things. And the real conversation would be, do we allow children from like 2026 starting there, all those children's not allowed to eat meat, banned by law, and to get rid of the meat eaters type idea, get rid of the industry. That would be the real movements that will make this movement more valid than an individual switching to vegetarian. I think that is very kind of selfish, and is not helping the cow in the slightest. It's just helping your idea of what you're doing for the world. It is not very much grappling with the idea of, if that's really bad, what movements should you be advocating for. And I don't think it would be necessarily stop eating meat. I think the movements you should be gravitating towards, and I think actually I am productively gravitating towards, even if I eat meat, is the idea of not treating meat differently. And overall, the main take from this should be, I view cannibalism wrong, and I also view eating steak and such to be morally wrong, due to me viewing animals as a group, and the human also being part of that animal group, of where I can easily see it being wrong to just eat meat, period, due to right, and yeah, without any bias, without any human bias. Because as soon as they would be mad because I took human bias out of it. That's why they would be mad, because they really think they're important when they're really not. They're not important, and they're actually not important. Not important. They're just one category of brain that had opposable thumbs, for instance. Right, it had a bigger brain and had the circumstances to have it, and that doesn't mean they're better. And this goes into like where a billionaire just had the circumstances to have $1 billion. It doesn't mean they're smarter or anything. And people will think that that billionaires are smarter, and they're very wrong. They're not smarter. Elon Musk, blatant idiot. And this is where I would argue Elon Musk, he might have a higher IQ, supposedly, but again, very trapped in his culture, very easily can become racist, if not already. Right, easily fall into stupid ideas, trying to scam people, and that might have been Trump with the meme coin. And then people like, he's dealing with complex operations and management. That's their argument. And it's just so obviously not insightful, because I'm arguing that a random person off the street, right? And then not random off the street. Hold up, let me put some context on it. Right, take a random person off the street and strip him so it's a blank slate of a brain, put it into the same circumstances of teachings that Elon Musk managed to go through for the qualifications to start up that company, and then and I'm trying to say the child is blank slate too, because I don't know who we just pulled off the street here, and can be and pulling somebody off the street is a bad example in the sense of them being stupid too, and them already being wired in their conditioned beliefs. But with the blank slate idea, pulling that off the street, and you give it all that experience, and then it has the slate, and then it has the capabilities to start, and it starts, and it does all of it, and it's taking in all the information to get to where he's at, right? And that person will be able to do it. We're agreeing to that because we agree to the fluidness of the brain. We do agree to that, which automatically argues with like women in the kitchen. And right, you already are stupid if you, right. But with this argument, it's arguing that it's just because of his setup, and not necessarily because of his brain power. And if you give people equal setup, they will get to equal conclusions. And I could throw that random person into his position if you gave him the capabilities to do it. If you gave him the setup, and Elon Musk, again, did not build that setup, definitely walked into that setup with him on the, right. He was in a good time with computers where computers were not understood, right? So we're saying that he's a billionaire because of circumstance. And I think, and like Charlie was saying this, Penguins on YouTube was saying how he got famous basically off of luck. It was off of a video that you wouldn't expect to pop, right? Random, versus, and then they try to say that Elon Musk would be better than somebody who didn't get born in that time period, right? We're obviously stupid due to, and not that I'm even using a script. I feel like my scripted videos are much better in solidifying the idea. And also, like with earlier when I was like, I forgot with the dogs being having more ability to learn the language, right? I would have had that scripted. There would not have been there. I'm just saying. And also in the parts where I'm not talking, I cut that out on TikTok. On YouTube, I am just posting raw footage. But yeah, and like Noon, was the one who, like, any brain could have picked up the groundings he needed. It was lucky that a brain picked it up, and he was the brain to pick it up. But all the brains are fluid enough to have picked it up with the right conditioning, and it is making an argument for proper conditioning to make people more capable or to complete things like that. And I think what proper conditioning will look like is not in America, is blatantly more long-term, pyramid level thinking, blatant of the Egyptian pyramid, blatantly more long-term, blatantly we should be putting our resources into third world countries so everybody is more capable, and blatantly that will make things better. Does my thing work? Not this one. Where do I keep the other one? In here? No. That would be a good place to put it. Her aim is getting better. I don't think it works. Oh, it does. Oh, I could just do this and buy the creeper. Um. But yeah. That was the thoughts of today. I'm not dead yet. Hold up. How much time I got? Oh, only 10 minutes. That was the thoughts of today. And yeah. And then, like, with the vegans and the meat thing, like, something for a pro-meat argument would be, is it ethical to eat plants due to them being living things and probably aware in their own sense of, right, right. Like, for instance, a sunflower knows to turn towards the sun. That's pretty aware. This is where the consciousness thing starts to fall, because it's more like awareness and obviously a bad name. But yeah, is that ethical? And arguably from the framework, it's not ethical. And this is where I would stop feeling bad for cows, kinda, or not necessarily responsible for cows, in my individual sense. It's just about agreed upon norms, I think is and that was with the cannibalism thing, agreed upon norms, that are important about this. And it is an argument for continuing because, yes, the agreed upon norms are cows can be treated in such a manner. And due to like the plant being too far away, like a vegan would argue a plant is too far away of a human, yeah, you can instantly start arguing that cows are too far away and dogs are too far away and such. And I don't think it's an argument for like black people being too far away or women being too far away due to them being in the species of Homo sapien. Like the racist law paper was arguing if we the people should include black people, due to, and I kind of got to go into it if I'm going to mention it, due to the original founders of We the People not referring to black people in his mind. And first of all, the first point of this is the Confederacy definitely lost. So the Union took over after the Civil War, meaning the Constitution would have been revised to the Union, who does generally look at people as more fluid and as a general population, a general republic, rather than what the Confederate was going for, which would have been more of a white republic. And they lost the war. So first of all, the grounds of the We the People of the Constitution is not that Confederate-ass Constitution that he was referring to. Second of all, right, We the People, so Homo sapien, very, very, yeah, obviously including people of green and brown eye and Homo sapien, even though they don't have blue eyes, is natural. Obviously giving strength to old ideas, not being solidified in science. Obviously black people being Homo sapien is blatant. I don't even know what we're talking about. And I think that the white people got there because the black people were joining their spaces. I just want to note how a dog cannot join your space and a cow can't join, even if the dog was given better language, not arguing that it shouldn't be. But the differences are, yes, a black person can be in your space, can literally have your same accent, pick up your same accent, their children pick up your same accent, and they can infest your place in a way that only a human could do, whereas these other animals and like a chimpanzee cannot do. So you would want to put a better classification on there. And that is more against the cows, though I don't know It depends. It depends, because I'm like, the cows also. Um, if we're treating life as valuable, have claim to that type idea of, they would probably have claim to that of not being tortured. I would think. I would think. But it just depends how educated a person is, I feel. And I don't feel like, and then also why I probably wouldn't never give up meat is because I don't think the population is smart enough to even start grappling with such ideas, to make it valuable to give up meat to be progressive for the movement. They're giving up meat and there is no movement towards better, so for nothing. And at the end of the day, way I'm viewing it is that meat just gives me fuel. Same how I could be a vegetarian and it would give me fuel. And like somebody was saying, like, she tricked him. They went to In-N-Out and she tricked him and said, oh, he said, oh, I love the burger. And he was like, she was like, that's a vegan burger. And he was like, I don't want this anymore. And she was like, you really liked it. And how I would be against such thinkings of, it definitely is just fuel. I would eat a vegan burger. Definitely just fuel. It's about how we're getting the fuel and the ethics we are using to get the fuel. And the vegan argument, which I would in the end agree with, it's more ethical to get your food from plants than rather than something so close to us that is experiencing more experience and more undeniable experience than a plant. Even though I do believe plants are having experience, and in some field it could be frowned upon to kill them for food due to the same rights to life. But I would be in agreement that it's less ethically deteriorating to kill a plant than a cow. And so, yes. And like he was arguing, and he was like, I don't want the burger anymore because it's a vegan burger. And yeah. And this is where I don't necessarily care, because I think what really would have to happen is the government, we would need to push the government to ban it so his children do not eat meat, so they do not grow up with that mentality. I do think that he is a dead soldier in a way of too far into belief, where you can actually get a whole population up to date really quickly with just one generation if you were to do it properly. And even though there will be some barriers that I am thinking of that I just don't have time to go into. But yeah, overall, I do eat meat because, yeah, it's an option. And it is norm, and I respect norm. But I will like our norm to be manipulated by progressive scientific thinking. And that was the lines of thinking that I think does grant the cow and some immunity to the amount you can slay them, for example. And basic animal rights, in the end, is what the argument would be. And yeah, so that's everything. I don't know anything else I want to say. It's 2 hours of content for YouTube. And I'm probably going to work on a video. I don't know what the topic's going to be. But and anything with the racist, I do have time left. Anything with the racist person, I don't know. I think I kind of broke down his argument with it being stupid on facts of racism. An A+ was crazy for the paper. On facts of racism, and arguably that not being smart. And what they said about it was it would be wrong to argue, to give a paper a bad grade if the argument was good, and arguably the argument is not good, basis on science. But that's all the time we have. I got, yeah, that's on TikTok though. That's a whole different video. This video's done. Have a good day. Like, comment, subscribe. Have fun. Today, goodbye. Adios, amigos. See ya later, alligator.